Welcome to Friday Office Hours with Tertulia. I am Linda Hammis, co-founder of Tertulia and your host for Office Hours. As many of you know, we have started evolving our Friday office hours to invite experts across the publishing world, agents, marketers, platform specialists, people that can better help us understand the business side of publishing and the direction it's going. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Mollie Bolen from IngramSpark. Mollie has such a deep knowledge of IngramSpark for those of you using it or considering. She holds a portfolio of authors there, authors like you, who she's trying to help them sell more books, and really knows the ins and outs of the publishing and distribution journey at IngramSpark. So we felt like this was just a no-brainer to have her on. Many of you may have come over to Tertulia from IngramSpark. We have a partnership with Ingram. They're also a strategic investor in Tertulia. So it's high time that we welcome Mollie. Hi, Mollie.
Hello,
Good to
so
see
glad to
you.
be here. Yeah, it's nice to see you all. There is a great turnout, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, obviously a lot of interest here. No pressure.
Yeah.
Uh, and for those of you unfamiliar with IngramSpark, before I kick off my interview questions for Mollie, it is one of the largest and most widely used publishing and distribution platforms for independent authors and publishers. Bookstores, libraries, online retailers, all the spokes lead into the hub that is Ingram. So really important distribution network. For those of you who are asking, how do I get my books on tertulia.com? The key to that is Ingram. We're going to kick it off really with some basics. What does IngramSpark actually do, Mollie?
Yes. So yesterday, this is funny. I was actually sitting around talking with my coworkers. We were kind of going through some of these questions, and essentially three words that about Ingram Spark. We print, we distribute, and we help market. What Ingram Spark is, right? How I like to describe it is it's like I always say like a little baby company within the Ingram Content Group umbrella, which of course you guys are aware, Ingram is the largest book distributor globally. Ingram Spark is our indie publishing platform that launched in 2013. And I like to say it's kind of broken the barrier a little bit as it offers that same distribution access as you would get anywhere else, including a traditional publishing deal. So yeah, that is, and Ingram Spark, it can be for, you upload a title, you print and distribute it, or we have users that, they don't use our distribution services. They're just printing off of their account. Maybe they're just, handing them out to family and friends. So it's really what you make it. But yeah, that's my little
Great.
spiel.
Okay. Yeah. Little baby company that happens to be very powerful and global. But yeah, no, I
Not
hear
as
you. It's
small. Yes,
extraordinarily,
yes.
it's extraordinarily targeted at who it's helping, and it's authors like you on this call. Mollie, could you break down for us what's the difference between IngramSpark and Amazon KDP? It's kind of the million-dollar question for people in the beginning of their self-publishing journey, I think.
hmm Yeah. So Amazon KDP, they distribute for Amazon, right? Ingram Spark, we distribute to not only Amazon, but everywhere else, anywhere books are sold. If you're on KDP and you're in their expanded distribution, you're essentially in KDP's account with Ingram. They KDP and other indie publishing platforms, they all use us for their expanded distribution for all places outside of Amazon. So that's what I like to say. Amazon is good for Amazon, distributes to Amazon. We are great for Amazon and everywhere else. So I would say that's probably that's how you differentiate them, kind of. Of course, there are other differences, but that's the main one. Is that, we are the preferred distributor for anywhere books are sold. So,
Okay, so you could choose to be on Amazon KDP or
yeah.
IngramSpark, or you could be on both, which many of the authors on this call are on actually both, or
hmm
maybe they started with Amazon and quickly realized that they wanted expanded distribution, moved on to Spark. But let me ask you this, if you only publish through Amazon and not through
Yeah.
Spark, I see you're saying you're missing opportunities such as expanded distribution, potentially through your local bookstore or to a library who might be buying your book. Any other opportunities that these authors should know about they're missing if they're not on Spark?
Yeah, so even if you're on KDP and you're in their expanded distribution platform that routes through Ingram, while your book, is available on other sites and for booksellers, you kind of have to think, right? So Amazon, it's wild. It's also bookstores and libraries' biggest competitor, right? So when they see that this book, is through KDP, it really kind of discourages them from, offering it because again, it's kind of like putting them up against one of their biggest competitors. Um, there is absolutely, honestly, no reason that I believe anyone should only, should not have their own IngramSpark account if they are doing KDP expanded distribution. I highly recommend creating, instead of doing that, creating your own IngramSpark account because also if you're in KDP expanded distribution, they are setting your retail friendly terms. And I think we'll get into that a little bit more later, but they're setting your wholesale discount for you. So you're losing that control there. So I highly recommend, and I really don't see a reason why, people wouldn't be using both. So
Great. Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely want to dig into the wholesale pricing, setting pricing and that kind of thing. So let's say I set up an IngramSpark account and then I really like for maybe my book is about a local topic or a topic that's in a community of interest in a certain area. We all know getting distribution in bookstores, much less merchandising, is very difficult.
yeah.
But I see that there's an opportunity here for my book. How literally do I do that with IngramSpark? Is there any guarantee that a bookstore will carry my book? How can I kind of market to the end user? Does Spark support that? Or
Yeah.
how does that all work?
Yeah, so there is no guarantee, right, for that a bookstore is going to order copies of your book and put it on their bookshelf. There's definitely some strategy that goes into that. A couple of items that are real, actually, yeah, a few items that are really, really important. Your return status, right? When you're setting your book up, you're choosing, am I going to make my book returnable, non-returnable? And what that means is, let's say a bookstore they order 100 copies of your book, 80 sell. That means that they can then return the remaining 20 back to us. That is pretty much a requirement to actually be on a shelf. Along with that, right, your wholesale discount, it needs to be set between 53 and 55% on the IngramSpark account. That's another huge, huge piece that goes into it. I don't know that we've seen, I can think of maybe one title with the short discount that we've seen actually get good shelf space. Um, and along with that, if so, I have a lot of people, they ask me, or they'll come to me and they'll say, "Hey, I'm a bestseller on Amazon. I've sold this many books on Amazon. Why can I, and I contacted my local Barnes and Noble and they had no interest. Why is that?" And what I like to tell people is be conscious of where you're sending people to purchase your book. Like kind of plays into what I said before, Amazon are these bookstores competitors. Um, so if you want to, have a local event at your Barnes and Noble or you want to be on a shelf there, direct your readers to purchase from there. That's going to put you on their radar. They're going to see there's actually demand for this coming from our website. It's going to catch their eye. So that is a huge piece of advice I always give is to just think about that. And also along with that, build reviews, right? It shows that you have that audience. Your Goodreads reviews, huge. And then my last note is never mention Amazon sales, where that you're an Amazon bestseller. That they really don't like to hear that, is what, from our experience. So those are my big pieces, but it really just comes down to showing that there is a demand for it. And doing that, by driving traffic through their online store.
Yeah, I mean, I see the temptation for people to mention Amazon bestseller because you can very quickly get to a micro community and show a bestseller status, or not quickly, but
Yeah.
it's easier to do. So I totally identify with authors that do that, and I might be tempted to do the same. But I will tell you, as having run a bookstore, what bookstores look at is that acceleration and demand score and other sales. And Amazon is this black box where not only can you, the author, not get the data from wholesale sales, but bookstores cannot. And so, there are other sources of data, but I think that's like I've been on the other side of the desk from what Mollie's talking about, and I have seen that kind of Ingram sales data does make an impact on what we choose to promote. I mean, we're, highly curated. We care about what, other cultural signals and excitement around the book and lots of other things, including our editorial taste. But those sales signals do help sort of
Yeah.
cut through the noise, and they are really important. So just a bookseller's point of view. We've got a few like follow-up questions in the chat I'll turn to. Could you just double click, Mollie, on the returns angle? People are wondering like, how does that work with the returns? Is that chargeable to the author? Any pitfalls to be careful of with returns?
Yeah, so returns, yes, the author or the publisher would be responsible. And how that works is you would be charged the wholesale price of the book at the time of the return. And when you're setting your return status, there's going to be two options for returnable. It's going to be yes, destroy or yes, deliver. We always recommend selecting yes, destroy. It sounds rough, but what that simply means is the books are sent back to us and we recycle those materials. Whereas if you were to choose returnable delivery, that's going to tack on an extra $3 in shipping for us to get those books to you, to your address. And that $3 is only for the US. For returns globally, it goes up to $20. So if you are going to make your book returnable, if shelf space is a goal of yours, then I highly recommend doing the yes deliver or yes destroy. And yes, the pricing is it's taken out of your compensation, right? So if there's not enough compensation to account for the return amount, then an invoice will generate on the account. But yes, there's always a risk of returns. I will say that we have seen buying patterns change with some of our retail partners that were notorious for returning a lot of books. We've seen them kind of move away from warehousing and ordering in large bulk, whereas they're ordering, smaller quantities or as orders come in. So it's kind of helped reduce that risk. But yes, anytime you're turning returns on, there is going to be that risk there. So I believe, and Linda, I'll follow up with you. I think we have a rule of thumb to set aside a certain percentage of your earnings to account for returns. I'll have to follow up. I can't remember
That'd
what
be
that.
great because when we follow up with the kind of knowledge to come out of this that you're sharing, Mollie, we can give people a little more nuance to the returns. I think everyone would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Other follow-up questions and comments here. Don't use the ISBNs that are free from Amazon. Yep, heard that one before. Don't know if you
Yeah.
have any comment on ISBNs.
Yes, you want to own your ISBN, and with that, because you can use it across different platforms. And, if it happened, you decided to go forward with like a traditional deal, all of those things, you own that ISBN. So you can move around with it. So yes,
Mhm.
always, always, always want to own your own ISBN.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad whoever brought that up has gone through that rodeo before, but that's good to know for the new people. Carmen says, what are your thoughts on turning off the return button? I think Mollie's already made it clear what she would recommend there.
If shelf space is not something that you're, dead set on, there's nothing wrong with making your books non-returnable. If you don't want that risk at all, that's totally okay.
Okay, great. That's helpful. Thank you. We have a comment. Amazon is on the trash list because all of the books arrived damaged. How do you handle that at Ingram if a book arrives damaged? Any comment on, actual quality of what's being shipped out?
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's ever an issue with the shipment, there is a space, on the orders page to submit a claim and even upload photos. We take those very seriously. Our quality inspections team look those over. They determine, if what's necessary, whether that's a reprint, a credit, whatever that is. But that is something that we take very seriously. So please, if you have issues with the shipment of any kind, always, submit a claim on there so that our quality services go in and actually, check out what's going on.
Okay, that's great for everybody to know. And then finally, before we move on to more of my questions, somebody's just plainly asking, what if I want to switch over from Amazon to IngramSpark? Literally, what do I do?
Yeah. Again, Linda, let me write that down. It's actually a simple link, like a web page that you would go to, and you fill out a transfer form, and then we contact KDP on your behalf, and they give us the green light, and we transfer your title and your ISBN over to your IngramSpark account. However, you can only do that. Goes back to owning your ISBN. If it's an Amazon provided free ISBN, you will not be able to use that on IngramSpark. You'll have to either use one of our ISBNs or purchase one. But if you do own that ISBN, yes, you'll fill out a title transfer form, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think people have learned the hard way that they have to set up a new ISBN when they want to go
Yeah,
to Spark
yeah.
if they didn't do that in the first place. Okay? So no guarantee that you'll be in distribution at bookstores, but there are some things that Mollie's describing can better set you up to be noticed or approved for distribution. Let's talk about the very sexy topic of metadata. It's so important. Can you talk about why it's important and what to do as an IngramSpark author to make sure that yours is optimized?
Yes, absolutely. And you know what, Linda, I'm glad you said this because that was my third item when it comes to bookstore presence. Metadata, so important. Okay, quick little synopsis on what metadata is, right? It's all the data of your book. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? It's your title, your list price, your subject codes, your description, all of that good stuff. That is what makes up your metadata. What metadata is how it really helps and why it's so important to have it optimized is yes, it's a professional look. A lot of times, booksellers, libraries especially, they're very particular, and it's just, they skip over books that don't have great metadata. It just kind of shows a lack of professionalism. But also, what metadata is it's your best free marketing tool, right? It's basically determining how your titles are showing up organically when readers are searching for content like yours. For example, we never recommend using, a BISAC code of fiction general because our reader goes on the web and they're typing in fiction, yada, yada, yada. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of titles. But if you get more niche with it, right? And you're typing in fiction, sports romance, sports comedy, sports romance, or whatever, something of that sort, it's going to lead your readers looking for content like yours more organically and quicker to your titles. It's going to be that difference between you showing on page 100 versus you showing in the top 10 pages, right? And there's so many, and that's another item, Linda, that I'll send your way. There's so many different pieces that go into it, and there's so many different important aspects of each one. For example, short description, huge for libraries. A lot of people skip that one. If on iPage, which is where booksellers order from through Ingram, they don't see a short description, which is what's at the top, they'll pass on. Thema is required for international global sales, right? They act the same as BISACs for everywhere outside of North America. All of these little things. But yes, it's like I said earlier, it's your best free marketing tool. Use those keywords. Use all of that good stuff to, what are your readers going online and searching for that would lead them to your book? Add that to your keyword, long-tailed words, phrases. And then one last note on metadata is it is all indexable, meaning let's say your BISAC code is, again, romantic comedy or sports romance. You don't need to use sports romance as a keyword. It's already indexed in there. So you get creative with those. So
Okay.
we have a full guide, full title metadata guide
I bet.
you
Yeah.
can find. Yeah.
Great. Okay. A few other super smart questions. Lots of good stuff coming up here in the chat. Speaking of romance books, if I want to sell a few weeks before Amazon distribution to a store, maybe sneak peek, early Spark distribution, would you recommend changing the on sale date to be earlier than the release date? Or is there another way to get bookstores access earlier?
We always recommend making sure that publication and on sale date match. Even if you were to change your on sale date, it's tricky to where you can't, you're not picking and choosing, who we're distributing to. So there's very large chance Amazon will start earlier as well. Um, I would say really how I would go about that is maybe looking, sell to them direct. Um,
You could do
but
a
yeah,
different edition. I've seen people do different editions.
that is true as well. Um, so yeah, we start printing around, I think, 2 weeks in advance of your release date. Um, and then at that point, it is, up to the retailer to hold on to those until release. But also it kind of depends. It's different for each retailer. So that's kind of just something you would have to work with them on.
Okay, another pro question from Anne Ain in the chat. Recently set up distribution with IngramSpark. Does your Discovery Basic or Discovery Boost marketing program get the book onto Edelweiss? Just in the spirit of metadata, setting up your book title, making sure it's discoverable early on. She notes IBPA members supposedly get the setup fee waived on Edelweiss if IngramSpark loads our books onto Edelweiss, but I'm not sure how that happens. Somewhat related to the setup. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so we unfortunately have discontinued our Edelweiss service. We are, I believe, launching kind of something similar here at Ingram. But yeah, as of right now, that is something that we've discontinued. But I do want to note that title discovery package. If I were to recommend any sort of promotional service, it is going to be that one.
Why is that?
Because it comes, you can, purchase bookseller showcase, a la carte, nominate for curations, all of those things. But what Title Discovery does is it kind of combines a lot of those offerings into one, right? With Title Discovery, you're getting that bookseller showcase. You're getting included in newsletters, not just bookseller focused, but reader facing globally. And then on top of that, too, it comes with a full metadata enhancement. So we have the data behind that to prove that that works. So yeah, that is the one that I always kind of recommend. I think same goes for my entire team.
You can change your
Yeah.
metadata at any time, but good question from Yolanda in the chat. How long does it take for that updated description, whatever it is that you're adding, change themes to then update on the distribution side and the retailer websites?
So it's pretty immediate on our end. However, it can be a little bit different when it comes to updating like on retail websites. We refresh our feeds. I can't remember how often, very often though. So we're basically and what that means is like we're resending your data out there. But so it's pretty immediate on our end. But it is up to, again, each retail website to actually update their own listing.
Then speaking of timelines, having things updated, what about just the whole process? I'm ready. I've got my manuscript. I'm going on IngramSpark. I've bought an ISBN. I'm ready to get set up. From that moment of getting my title set up and my account set up to distribution, what is the fastest or how long does that typically take? I'm sure it totally depends on the author, but what would you say is either average or the fastest that you could do that?
Okay, let's assume that the files are IngramSpark ready to go, right? They're up to our specifications. If you don't have an IngramSpark account yet, that often can take around 3 business days. That because there's an ID verification process. You'll submit for your account, but then you'll also receive communication asking for proof of identity. So that can sometimes take 3 business days.
Oh, you mean you have to be a human?
You sure do. Yeah, we do an actual verification process. So that can take a few business days, but when your account is ready to go, gosh, you can upload that title. And I will say sometimes it takes another couple or few business days for a title to process. And then from there you can add in distribution, which is pretty immediate. So I would say probably maybe a week.
That fast. Okay.
Yeah.
But you said if your title's up to spec, so I would imagine that's where things can break down in terms of having to sort of reflow content in your book builder, or what are the
Yeah.
travails that people experience there?
Um, File creation, we do have our book building tool. I know a lot of people, unless you're very savvy, they work with someone to help them design their files. But yes, we do require print-ready files. But yeah, from the time, let's say you didn't have an IngramSpark account, but your files are ready, I would say you could probably get that thing up and running within a week. So, um, but yeah, the file creation, that's going to be huge. I know, there's a lot that goes into that. So.
So it isn't unrealistic if you have like a really timely book or you have some date you want something published by, maybe there's some seasonality to it. It's not crazy to say you're going to open your account and have books actually on retailer sites like Tertulia.com within a month.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. That much sooner, really.
Hmm.
But I will say that is a note that I had. Linda, I think you had sent me a question asking, what advice do I give authors? It's always, I feel like a lot of people have that mindset, hey, I wrote my book, it's ready to go. I'm ready to publish it now. Um, Give yourself a little bit of time. Build your audience, right? Make sure that audience is built up. Get some, advanced reader copies sent out. Get, reviews going. That is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is they're so ready to get their book out there, but there's no audience. So I highly recommend giving yourself at least a couple of months to just, build that audience, build the demand, the hype around it. So.
1,000%. We spend a lot of time talking about here in office hours and something that, might that scale time is a little different for everybody. And certainly if you're a second or third or fourth time author versus a first time author. But yeah, that's like, I've definitely seen that kind of mistake made
Yeah.
before when people are disappointed. It looks like there's a question in the chat about this. Timeline for setting up a pre-order. What would be recommended?
Yeah, so for pre-orders, again, we start printing. We can start printing really a month, I think, in advance. I think most often 2 weeks. Let's say, for example, you have a book, it's May, it's going to release in September. If you get the book up and running on IngramSpark and you enable it for distribution, it should populate on these retail websites for pre-order. And so then when it comes closer to your launch date, a month, 2 weeks out, we actually start printing those pre-orders, sending them out to said retailer, and then they are responsible for getting them to the reader, on the release date.
And complying with the on sale date.
Yes. Make sure your publication date and on sale date is in the future. If you were to go like upload a title that you want to release in 2 weeks and enable it for distribution, at that point, it's more than likely not going to be listed as pre-order. It's just going to show as regular order, and you're going to hope that the delivery date, right, is your publication date, or maybe a little bit after and not before. But I do recommend giving yourself a few months and collect those pre-orders. Get your book on IngramSpark, enable it for distribution a few months before, and then it'll populate for pre-order on these websites. And so let those build up.
You've given yourself some time to build an audience. You've gotten your book in publication ready shape. What about the side of like the pricing, sales, and marketing? Can you talk a little bit about pricing 101, how to price your book, and royalties? How do royalties work?
Yeah, so I can't give much advice on when it comes to pricing. I would say look at your peers, right? Look at books similar to yours. We also if you type in Google IngramSpark compensation calculator, you can put in your book specifications and mess around with different price points. Um, Again, I'm not telling you what your compensation should be per sell. But I will say that on average, we see, I think, between $2 and $3. So if you're around that compensation, you're probably in the right price range. Yeah, compensation is going to be there's a misconception that it's going to be your list price minus your print cost. Let's say you're charging readers $25, your print cost is $7, right? Your compensation is not going to be $25 minus $7 equals 18. How compensation works is it is the wholesale price minus the print cost. So let's say your book, right? You price it, list price $30. Your wholesale discount is, I'm going to do it easy here, 50%. That's a wholesale price of 15, right? And then so your compensation would be $15 minus your print cost. So I see a lot of confusion around that.
That's very helpful. Yeah. I mean, I think if you're not in the biz, you don't quite get
Yeah,
that
no,
distinction.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, that's helpful. And you can change your price at any time, or is there like a
yes.
lag? Okay.
There is a lag. We update pricing changes go into effect every Friday.
Gotcha.
So
And do you see authors do that very often?
yeah, I actually in the last week, and I'm not saying this is something that I recommend doing. I have an author who has a low wholesale discount, at 40%. But she was working with an indie bookstore who wanted to order copies, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to change it this week, my wholesale discount to 55%, so they can order those copies." So yes, we do see it a lot. I definitely don't recommend changing your price a whole bunch of times,
Yeah.
because again, not only do we, it's pretty immediate on our end, but it's going to take a second for the market to catch up. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Confusing for the retailer and the
yeah.
customer. Yeah. Okay, I think this is a great segue into Ingram Share and Sell, which is a very cool program. We're working with Ingram to try to figure out how to better integrate Share and Sell into author websites. Can you explain what is Share and Sell and how do you take advantage of it? What's the advantage of it? How do you get it set up, etc.?
Yeah. So share and sell, on your account, it's going to be called e-commerce on the left side. What share and sell is it gives you the ability to create a link, a embed tag for a website, and a QR code, all three of those. It's totally free. So how it works is you go to that e-commerce tab on your account, you select create link. As of right now, it only supports one format and one ISBN. Again, that's as of right now. We do have some really exciting changes coming for share and sell, so stay tuned this year for that. Um, but I always tell, so then, right, you create your link, you select your ISBN. How share and sell works is, right, it's the only way that readers can order directly from Ingram. So it eliminates that middleman wholesaler. So the wholesale discount for share and sell is not relevant because there's no middleman. The reader is ordering directly, essentially directly from you. So it gives you the ability, if you were to set your same list price on share and sell as you do, everywhere else, your compensation would more than double because again, there's no wholesale discount involved. Um, that also leads me to talk about how it's an amazing promotional tool. Um, so with share and sell, like I just said, there's no wholesale discount involved. So it gives you a lot more wiggle room when it comes to like if you wanted to say like let's say for the month of June, you wanted to run a Father's Day special, right? You can create that link. You can charge quite a bit less for your title because again, no wholesale discount. And not only that, but the link is totally customizable to where you can set it to expire. You just want it to go the month of June. You can set it to expire June 30th. You can limit the amount of orders per link. So you don't want more than 100 people to be able to order it. Or you can order the amount of books that an individual can order at a time. So I say it's an amazing promotional tool. Not only that, but it's great to just give people another buying option, right? We're seeing more and more people want to move away from Amazon and they want to support you directly. Um, and that's a way to do that. And we would be the ones printing and fulfilling that order. So you would not have to mess with that at all. But yeah, it's a great way to sell direct, engage with your readers, and we have some really, really exciting, expansions coming with it too. So
Very cool. Yeah, I see lots of chatter in the chat. Sherry's saying she uses these for special pricing for limited times only and
yeah,
promotes that on her website. Lots and lots of authors using the share and sell links on Ingram. And we have questions like, oh, where can I put share and sell? Super easy. Just a reminder to everyone, you control the retail links. We have defaults on there, but you control it. You want to only have your share and sell link for a limited time only. Point everybody there. That's fine. And then you can open it up to
yeah,
wider the win, after a certain time period. So it's kind of like a little e-commerce out of the box, flexible setup that you can use the share and sell program. And I guess I would say the other thing about it is the fulfillment being taken care of is great. You don't do any signed copies, do you?
we don't know.
Okay.
It's all print on demand. I do see some questions regarding ebooks. Right now, it doesn't support ebooks, but again, we are really working on our share and sell expansion this year. So stay tuned. I think everyone will be really, really excited about that. And right now it's only available in US and UK markets. But again, stay tuned.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it looks
Yeah.
like global expansion is on the horizon for that. Um, we also had a question here about barcode and pricing on the back of the book, if that's required.
No, if there's not a barcode built into the file, I believe that we provide a generic one. But I may have gotten that backwards, and it may be. So Linda, let me follow
Do
up
you
with you on
remember,
that.
Ilea, from when you and I worked on it? Was it you could actually have Ingram provide one into that empty space? Do you recall?
Right. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
I thought so.
I think if
yeah,
you don't have one, then one's generated for you, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
Another question here, is there a way to access the share and sell link before the release date for pre-release book events at bookstores?
Not as of right now. That is something too that yeah that we're working on. Again, you guys are going to be very excited this year with
A
the
lot of good
things we've
questions
got
here.
going on. Yeah.
Can I publish my physical book with Ingram and with Amazon if I own my own ISBN? Yes.
Mhm.
Um, okay.
What people miss, you can easily, so, on your account, you'll have a report section. If you click on the sales report, you can customize that. And so I get a lot of inquiries all the time. How do I find my lifetime sales numbers? There's a customized report on that top right-hand corner, and you can put in date ranges, you can filter by ISBN, by format, all of that good stuff. Not only that, but it'll also, you can access what countries you have sold in. So you can find that information. The only thing is we cannot provide information on where the books have actually sold. And that is just proprietary information, really for protection purposes. But really, yeah, that you can easily find, what countries your books are selling in. I know I get that all the time. People want to know where their books sold, but we just unfortunately can't provide that.
Got it. Thank you. Lots of good questions here. I'm just going to take the moderator's privilege to ask a few more, and then I'll pull up the inbound questions from before this call, of which there are many good ones as well. Can you share anything about bookstores being more open to carrying indie books than before? I mean, we know it's always hard to get your book in bookstores. And then, of course, we've gone through this boom in indie publishing, and I've
Yeah.
heard, lots of controversy from authors talking about, and disappointment and anger, and sometimes about the difficulty in getting carried. Can you speak to that changing at all, or any trends there?
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you said this because in my notes, I had it written down to tell you all. Um, I get a lot of people come to me and they're like, I know Books Million, or I know they don't do POD. I know they don't. They do. We are selling to our IngramSpark authors are getting sold not only in indie bookstores, but national retail chains every day. They are coming to us. We have bookstore partners coming to us and saying, what do you have for us? What in this genre do you guys have right now? It has been I mean, this year, IngramSpark has had a New York Times bestseller. It has
What
been
was it?
Chantal Tessier, Chaotic. Um, it has been, we've had over a dozen US Today book bestsellers. It has been, even since I started here, insane to kind of watch how this stigma is changing. Um, but yeah, that is my biggest piece of advice is you can get into these stores. It goes back to, like I said, where are you sending readers to buy your book? Do you have reviews? Is the demand there? If the demand is there, they don't care. They don't care if it's POD. They're going to order it and they're going to sell it. So yes, don't get discouraged. We see it every day, all day.
To that, any particular genres that you're seeing that demand come from? Romantasy?
Romantasy, sports romance, And right now too, I think there's been a big uptick in science fiction. I think Project Hail Mary kind of helped bring that to light. And so, but definitely those dark romance, romantic comedy, all of those things.
Well, I just put, for anybody curious, I put the indie author in the chat who she's referring to. Mohammed asks, why does it take so long to get compensation paid by IngramSpark?
Yeah, so we have to collect point of sale data, right? From all the places that your book sold. So I can't really speak too much on that because I'm not very good at the technicalities of it. But that is why we need some time to collect all of that data. And not only that, but it also allows for a little bit of time for returns as well. So yeah, that's what I say.
We are living at peak scam. Indeed, IngramSpark has also been victimized by this.
Yes.
And,
Yep.
and IngramSpark's senior consultant, like Mollie, has reached out to our author saying that there are such and such publishing packages available. Assume this is a fraudulent offer. Anything to look out for there? Is this a rampant problem?
Yes. It is. Um, I've actually seen one. I've seen a lot of scammers come out and they'll use a web address of IngramPublishing.com or something of that sort. Be wary of these. Um, yes, there are all kinds of scammers out there. If you receive a message claiming to be from IngramSpark, um, and you think it's fraudulent, we have an email address. Linda, I can send it to you too. It's legal@ingramcontent.com. Better safe than sorry. Send them a note, and they'll be able to confirm or not if that's fraudulent. Also, always hover over the sender's email address to verify that it actually matches a legitimate IngramSpark domain. I believe most all of our email addresses end in ingramcontent.com. Like I said, there's a lot out there, ingrampublishing.com. So just be wary of that.
And don't feel bad. It is so
No.
incredibly sophisticated what people are doing.
Oh my,
Unreal. I just 2 hours ago, I got the most incredibly professional email telling me that my email service provider was going down because of some activity. It was so
no,
unbelievably
it's
good.
terrible. I mean, a very well-known, prestigious author last week get scammed by one of
Yeah.
those ingrampublishing.coms.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Happened to us too on the
It
bookstore
just
side. Yeah.
happens.
Okay, in the spirit of communication, as you mentioned, reaching out to legal, what about customer service response time? What should be expected? There's a few questions in the chat. How can I get help? What should the response time be? This isn't a tremendously big company. So, what tips do you have for people to get some love from your team?
Yeah. Um, Right now, our turnaround time, I think, I checked with our customer support manager. It's 5 days, 5 business days. But also, it depends on the complexity of the request, right? A lot of times, if it's something a little out of the ordinary or a little complicated, there's different segments of the business involved and different people that we have to consult and talk to. Um, so I would say if it's a complexity or a complex issue or request, probably expect longer turnaround times. I will say we do have, the chat. I believe that they've created to kind of help alleviate some of that wait time. Use the chat where you can. We also have, our help center, our help page. There's tons of answers on there. Um, Go to ingramspark.com, search in the topic that you have a question about. There's probably an article that we've released about it. Um, but I guess really my biggest piece of advice to remember is we do outsource some customer support. Almost all of it is in-house. They're individuals sitting right outside of out of the store. They're incredible. Um, it's just there are so many tickets, right, and people coming through. So I always suggest try to find the answer on ingramspark.com, on our blog, on our help center. Use the chat. But
When
yeah,
you
that's
reach
really
out,
close.
be extraordinarily specific in what you are
Yes.
trying to do.
Yes.
Note your account number. I mean, it sounds obvious, but I mean, we see that here at Tertulia. Maybe 50% of the people writing into us could have found, maybe more, could have
Yeah.
found the answer in the chat or the help center. Maybe more than that.
Yeah. Always check there.
Yeah, so it'd be faster for you, faster for us, and we'd love to spend our time with you on higher value things rather than things that you can find in our help center. So I'm with you, Molly, on that. Indeed. Question: using Barnes and Noble Press and IngramSpark together, can I use both our IngramSpark and Barnes and Noble to distribute the same book without affecting either account?
That question, and I actually was doing my research this morning and asking around. I believe the answer to that is yes. However, I am not 100% sure. And the reason being, right, is that we are the distributors for Barnes and Noble. So I don't foresee that there would be an issue. But again, I don't necessarily recommend it. But I can't tell you 100% that it won't cause issues. But if you own that ISBN, you should be able to use it across different platforms.
Okay, thank you. Avoiding duplicate listings between Amazon and IngramSpark, kind of a similar question. How can I avoid that?
Yeah. When it comes to ebooks, to avoid a duplicate listing, you do not want to accept the Amazon addendum. When you upload an ebook, you need to, to get on Amazon for the ebook, you have to accept an addendum. You would not want to do that. So that's saying we will not, distribute your ebook to Amazon. So that's first. We want to make sure that's not signed. For print titles, if you own your ISBN and it's on IngramSpark and KDP, um, Amazon, they're going to prioritize their listing. And I say that because, okay, if you're on KDP and you're on IngramSpark, KDP is going to handle your Amazon fulfillment and distribution. However, a lot of times I see people price their titles differently on Amazon, KDP, and IngramSpark, which I really do not recommend. Um, but because that's really kind of the only way you would notice a duplicate listing. But in that case, Amazon is going to prioritize their own listing. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Pricing and competitiveness. Some authors feel IngramSpark has become less competitive in pricing and ease of use compared to alternatives like KDP and Draft to Digital. What is IngramSpark doing to remain competitive and provide value to authors?
Um, so a lot of things. There is a lot that kind of goes on behind the scenes, that many people aren't aware of. I would say, right, how we're staying ahead is our distribution access. Again, KDP, Draft to Digital, all of these places, their distribution is routed through Ingram. Um, how we are supporting indie authors, though. Like I said, a lot goes on behind the scenes. We have, of course, those promotional options on the account that are paid and unpaid. I highly recommend the curated list, right? It's where you nominate your book for a certain theme that month, and it goes on a list that we're showcasing to booksellers and readers. We have that title discovery package. Um, but we also, behind the scenes, are doing things on our end. So we're running our own curation separately from that. We have, Indie Buzz newsletters that we're sending out to book buyers. We're meeting directly with retailers. I personally have meetings with bookstores in New York City next week. Um, so there's a lot that we're doing. Um, but there are a lot of things coming as well. So, again, stay tuned.
Yeah, we're also kind of working on this front too, in terms of the value of discoverability, as I've mentioned before, cross promotion within our um, base of thousands of authors who, many of you are writing in the same genre, and we could really help sort of boost each other's audiences. So a lot coming in that area from Tertulia as well. Okay, and I think, yeah, last question. One of these last previous questions was author success, resources, tools, or programs does
Mhm.
does IngramSpark have to help your visibility? It sounds like more coming in that area, but kind of generally the like
Yeah.
routes into the distribution
Yeah.
network to the stores, et cetera, and then advertising opportunities.
Yeah. So, again, you want to make sure your metadata, right? That's on you. That's your free marketing tool. We do have on that promote my book section of your account, right? Like I mentioned, those curated lists. Those are lists that we're putting on bookshop.org, Amazon, iPage, which is where our retailers order from. We have those title discovery packages, the e-commerce link and expansion that's coming. We also have oh, this one. I'm so glad we're talking about this because I wanted to make sure I touch on this before this ends. Um, we have professional reviews that you can purchase on your through that Promote My Book tab on your account. I believe they're discounted rates. And a really quick synopsis on what professional reviews are. Um, a lot of people ask me, how do I get into library sales? A lot of libraries, there are actually states that have laws that a title to be carried in a public library has to have a professional review behind it. And what a professional review is, there's a few options. There's Book Life, or in through Publishers Weekly.
Mhm.
There's Kirkus. There's a couple others on that Promote My Book section. And what that is, you can pay to have Publishers Weekly or Kirkus review your title. And that just gives a whole different level of prestige to your work. If you're going to be doing bookstore outreach, library outreach, I always recommend, once you receive that review back, attaching that with it. So we have those options as well. Um, but yeah, again, we have behind the book interviews that you can nominate yourself for, which is promoted on Bookfinity. I haven't even touched on Bookfinity. Bookfinity is our discovery platform where readers discover books, kind of similar to like maybe a Goodreads, different though. We have Little Infinite that is focused on poetry. We have all sorts of things going on. It's really just, about being aware and making sure that you're keeping up with those different offerings in your account.
Great. Okay, Molly, that was an incredibly packed 55 minutes of information.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much. You've got a lot, just really deep knowledge on Ingram. Sounds like there's some exciting stuff to come, which we're
Yes,
looking forward
yes.
to. And we appreciate your time and all of your honesty and great answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I have some follow-up items I'll send your way, Linda. So thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a great weekend,
Yeah.
everybody. See you next Friday.